Everything you've known about console gaming could soon be flipped upside down. Insiders across the gaming industry are whispering about a radical new device, an Xbox-branded hybrid that merges the simplicity of a traditional console with the full might of a Windows-based PC. The biggest twist? This system might let you dive into Steam's immense game library right from your living room, including titles people once believed were PlayStation exclusives. But how can Xbox integrate millions of PC games without stepping on Sony's toes or sparking fierce industry battles? There's an undercurrent of concern about whether PlayStation can block these plans outright, especially since Sony's best-selling games are now hitting Steam. Yet rumors suggest that old rules about exclusivity could melt away in the face of this new wave of device-agnostic gaming. Some say it's unstoppable. Others think Sony will fight tooth and nail to maintain its edge. Why does this matter to you, the gamer? Because if these claims are true, you could soon have freedom like never before. Buy a single game and run it in your favorite environment. Console, PC, or something in between. It's a leap that promises to unite the entire gaming ecosystem under one interface. But that wasn't the whole story. The deeper you dig, the more you discover that Microsoft's plan is bigger than just giving you access to a massive catalog. This rumored Xbox machine could reshape the entire concept of exclusives. Everyone from hardware developers to legal analysts is chiming in, asking, how far can Microsoft push the boundaries of cooperation with publishers like Valve and Epic? What might this mean for the future of PlayStation, especially with the rumored PS 6 looming on the horizon? Welcome to Gamers Service Announcement. GSA, the more you know. Click that subscribe button and hit on the alert button to get notified about new videos for you. At the heart of the conversation is the idea of a universal Xbox dashboard. Allegedly, Microsoft wants an operating system that runs seamlessly on consoles, gaming PCs, handheld devices, tablets, and smart TVs, all without the need for separate versions of the user interface. The moment you power up this next-gen platform, you'd see a unified menu offering access to your existing Xbox library, as well as your Steam purchases. Talk of a so-called Xbox UI 2.0 first hit the rumor mill after a curious leak. An internal image appeared, hinting at new icons for Steam and other third-party storefronts. Though the screenshot was quickly taken down, the gaming community seized upon it as proof that Microsoft is pushing a single, cohesive environment. With so many engineers working on bridging the gap between console architecture and Windows 11 compatibility, enthusiasts began to envision an Xbox that's basically a streamlined PC in console form. If all goes according to plan, we could see an Xbox that not only plays your typical disc-based games, but also downloads and runs titles from anywhere. Epic Games Store, GOG, Ubisoft Connect, and more. That means tens of thousands, if not millions, of potential games at your fingertips. Today, you might need a dedicated gaming PC to juggle such variety, but tomorrow, you might do it all from your living room couch. Here's where it gets even more intriguing. Microsoft wants to ensure that the jump from standard console to hybrid PC is as smooth as possible. According to some insiders, they're determined to preserve the effortless plug-and-play feel of a console, meaning minimal driver hunts, no complicated setups, and straightforward patching. If the rumors prove true, you'll have the potential to install modded versions of games just as easily as you might on a Windows PC. This all sounds like a dream come true for gamers seeking total freedom. But there's one colossal wildcard in the room: PlayStation exclusives. As soon as you say Steam integration on Xbox, you also hint that Sony's prized first-party titles, which eventually land on PC, could be accessible on this new device. Aware of that, some people see a brewing storm on the horizon. As you might imagine, Sony doesn't look kindly on anything that dilutes the significance of its own hardware. Despite releasing games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, and Spider-Man on PC, Sony has typically insisted on strict platform identification, so they can manage who gets to play where. The idea of an Xbox-labeled PC device is a direct challenge to that approach, prompting intense chatter about whether Sony can legally or technically prevent its titles from launching on a competing brand's hardware. Not too long ago, we saw Sony clamp down on certain cloud streaming services, effectively halting users from playing its games on devices Sony never intended to support. Historically, the company has shown a willingness to protect its console ecosystem, even if it irritates a portion of their audience. That's why many folks figure Sony might try the same tactics again, maybe by reading hardware IDs or limiting license agreements so that a game purchased on Steam can't run on an officially recognized Xbox device. But the rumor mill says it's not so simple. Some argue that once Sony licenses a title to Valve for distribution on Steam, the job of restricting that title from certain devices becomes exponentially harder. Steam's official policies generally frown upon publishers blacklisting specific hardware, labeling it an anti-consumer move. Doing so might also attract regulatory scrutiny, especially in regions where consumer rights laws are robust. Still, there's a lingering question of whether Sony could craft an end-user license agreement, EULA, to legally bar usage on Xbox-labeled systems. Some experts claim that if the device is recognized as a Windows PC under the hood, it might not matter that it carries an Xbox brand. Meanwhile, others suspect Sony might push for new contractual clauses with Valve for future releases, effectively telling Valve, "We'll put The Last of Us Part 2 on Steam, but only if you guarantee it can't run on an Xbox OS." However, critics say that approach could blow up in Sony's face. If Sony is seen as forcibly limiting consumer choice after already selling them a game, it could lead to PR nightmares and potentially run afoul of fair competition regulations. The fear among gamers is that we might see legal battles over who truly owns a digital game once it's purchased, and whether a platform holder can retroactively restrict access. Inside this swirling debate, voices like Tom Warren of The Verge have spoken up, emphasizing that from a purely technical standpoint, Sony would struggle to block a Windows 11 app from running Steam-based PlayStation ports. Since Windows is an open platform, restricting an entire operating system might be tantamount to restricting the PC ecosystem itself. Tom Warren even stated that if the new Xbox relies on standard Windows architecture, Sony would have to block Steam on Windows, which is unthinkable from a practical standpoint. Meanwhile, Jez Corden of Windows Central isn't fully convinced Sony will remain powerless. He posits that Sony might find a new way to identify the hardware or software signatures of an Xbox device and prevent certain features from running. Even if that approach is complicated, Corden believes Sony's deep pockets and fierce protection of exclusives give them motivation to try anything. On top of that, an anonymous developer close to Microsoft's hardware team recently commented on the potential consequences if Sony tried to isolate the new Xbox. They suggested it would be very anti-consumer, anti-competitive for Sony to pick and choose which Windows machines could run their games. This expert raised questions about how Valve would react, how consumers might revolt against having their library forcibly curtailed, and how the Federal Trade Commission or other regulatory bodies might respond if Sony took extreme steps. Observers note that Sony's current multi-platform approach is profitable thanks to every PC sale generating income. Though exclusives drive console sales, the additional revenue from Steam and Epic can be substantial. Would Sony be willing to sabotage that lucrative channel simply to hamper Microsoft? Skeptics wonder if it's a losing battle, especially as more and more PlayStation titles appear on PC each year. This exchange highlights the tug-of-war in modern gaming. On one side, you have the older model of console exclusivity that boosts hardware profits. On the other side, you have the unstoppable wave of PC, mobile, and streaming, the future where gamers expect to play anywhere without walls. If the new Xbox is built on the premise of unstoppable universal access, it could force Sony to adapt or risk falling behind. For gamers, this is more than a hardware rumor. It's a conversation about freedom and ownership. If you buy a digital game on Steam, you want to play it across devices without artificial barriers. Microsoft's rumored approach suggests you could purchase a game once and install it on the Xbox console, your Windows gaming rig, a handheld device running the same universal dashboard, or even your TV if it supports the OS. Access cross-saves and cross-progression, meaning you can pause your session in one environment and resume in another with ease. Possibly skip repeated online fees. If the next-gen Xbox is truly a PC under the hood, many argue that charging for online multiplayer will feel outdated. Microsoft might remove the paywall that currently exists under Xbox Live Gold for certain features, especially as it tries to unify the ecosystem with Windows-based gaming, where online play is typically free. Such an evolution would be a massive boon to consumer choice, especially for gamers on a budget or those who just want to centralize their hobby. Gone would be the days of juggling logins and separate libraries. You'd open one interface and see everything you own, whether it's from Microsoft, Sony, Ubisoft, or smaller indie devs. Yet, not everyone is convinced. Some worry that a single behemoth platform under Microsoft's wing could tilt the balance of power too far in one direction. If Microsoft becomes the de facto gatekeeper, will it stifle innovation or nudge out smaller storefronts? Already, PC gamers can feel wary about the Windows Store's user experience. Although Microsoft claims it wants to allow total freedom, there are questions about whether they'll deliver on that promise long-term, or revert to controlling tactics once they gain a huge user base. And of course, the cynics remind everyone that money talks. If Sony sees more profit from cross-platform PC sales than from gating off exclusives, they might let the next Xbox become a Trojan horse for PlayStation software. Conversely, if the shift cannibalizes 6,000 sales, Sony could invest heavily in ways to keep the walled garden intact. The idea of a hybrid console that runs Windows 11 is easy to champion in theory, but the practical hurdles can't be ignored. Microsoft's record on bridging console and PC experiences has been hit or miss. The Xbox app on PC often lags behind in reliability compared to Steam, featuring fewer modding options, missing local file control, and sometimes awkward installation quirks. If the future console literally depends on merging these two worlds, Microsoft needs to up its game. Performance is another talking point. A device that can run everything from high-end AAA titles to everyday productivity apps has to be carefully engineered. Heat, power consumption, driver conflicts. These complications often plague custom PC builds. Can Microsoft design an out-of-the-box system that remains as plug-and-play as a typical console, yet still flexible like a PC? Skeptics warn that bridging these demands might result in a compromised system that's jack of all trades, master of none. Backward compatibility is also on every gamer's wish list. While Microsoft has made strides in letting you play older Xbox and Xbox 360 titles on current hardware, the next step is seamless integration with PC-only classics. Some older games might not recognize the universal Xbox OS if it relies on advanced APIs or unusual driver setups. The community would want reassurance that decades of PC gaming history remain accessible, especially if you tout an everything-in-one-place philosophy. Additionally, there's the looming question of subscription services. If Microsoft wants to unify Windows and Xbox into a single environment, how will Game Pass factor in? While it's extremely popular, changes to the platform might demand new subscription tiers or revised payment structures. The last thing gamers want is more confusion over which plan covers which games or whether you need an additional membership for certain PC-only titles. Finally, a portion of the user base remains loyal to the simplicity of a dedicated console. They don't want to fiddle with Windows settings or modding tools. They want a device that boots straight to a game with minimal fuss. If the new Xbox leans too far into PC territory, it might alienate those who love the brand for its standard console experience. Despite the skeptics, supporters see a future where platform boundaries barely exist. Already, gamers can link accounts between Switch, Steam, and even mobile games to share progress. For the upcoming generation, the lines between Xbox, PlayStation, and PC might blur until the only difference is brand loyalty. And the plastic box under your TV might just be a specialized computer that proudly bears a console name. By 2026 or 2027, when many suspect the PS6 will surface, this rumored Xbox hybrid could already be establishing itself as a one-stop solution. In that scenario, PlayStation might take a more open stance to keep fans happy, particularly if the money from PC players outweighs the hardware advantage. We could see a scenario where Sony touts the best place to play is still on PlayStation hardware, but also welcomes the extra revenue from gamers who buy their titles on an Xbox-branded PC. It's also important to consider that while Sony may remain publicly guarded, behind the scenes they have shown a willingness to collaborate if it boosts profits. The growing success of games like Spider-Man and God of War on Steam demonstrates that Sony wants to expand its player base. The difference is that up to now, Sony could rely on the brand distinction of PC versus PS5. If the next Xbox is recognized as a PC in the strict sense, it might be less jarring to see a Sony game boot up on it, especially for casual consumers who aren't deeply invested in console wars. From a purely consumer-centric standpoint, the future is bright. If you own an Xbox hybrid, your mother could use it for basic Windows applications, while you seamlessly switch to the latest PlayStation blockbuster. The device might double as your streaming box or even your home office PC. This level of flexibility and multi-use justification could make it the go-to entertainment machine in countless households. The real question is whether Microsoft can execute this vision without stumbling over its own limitations. Beyond the brand synergy and the OS integration, the company has to deliver a user experience that competes with established PC norms. They'll need to handle driver updates, performance optimizations, and an open environment for third-party tools. If done correctly, it might usher in a new standard for how we define a console. The speculation swirling around Microsoft's next-generation Xbox points to a monumental shift in gaming. A console that doubles as a fully functional PC could revolutionize how players buy, play, and share games. If Steam libraries truly become accessible by default, the usual borders separating Xbox from PlayStation might finally crumble, or at least become less relevant. From the vantage point of pure consumer freedom, these rumors spell a major win. More choice, more power, and fewer exclusives locked behind a single platform. Instead of siloed ecosystems, you'd have a device that encourages a buy once, play everywhere mentality. Developers could reach bigger audiences, gamers could enjoy more diverse libraries, and even Sony might see bigger profits by selling its titles to a newly expanded user base. Still, these changes won't happen without tension. Some worry that if Microsoft dominates the software environment, they might revert to controlling practices. Others think Sony has enough influence to hamper these plans, at least for a while. And many remain skeptical that Microsoft will remove the Xbox Live paywall or fully commit to an open, mod-friendly structure. The future is never simple, especially in an industry as competitive and innovation-hungry as gaming. But one thing is certain, the next generation of Xbox is shaping up to be unlike anything we've seen before, potentially dissolving the lines between console and PC. That possibility alone is enough to send shockwaves through the community. Now, imagine a world where the next big PlayStation hit shows up in your Xbox library the day it hits Steam, with no technical or legal roadblocks. For some, that's the ultimate dream, an end to the console war, replaced by a universal gaming playground. For others, it's a step too far, a betrayal of brand identity and tradition. The question is, which side are you on? Will Sony really push back against this unstoppable wave, or will they embrace the cross-platform future while maintaining their own unique corner of the market? As the pieces fall into place, keep an eye on every insider leak, every new partnership, and every subtle mention of a universal UI. Because if these rumors continue gaining traction, you might soon be looking at a console that does everything your PC can do, and more. And that's just the start of a story that could reshape gaming as we know it. If you like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that alert button for more awesome videos. Gamers Service Announcement: the more you know.